Hi guys, excited again to see you again today. Today I'm going to be doing my Series 2 Soul Urge 4 Relationship Compatibility. Now normally I get you to work out your soul urge using my core numbers video, which I'm still going to drop down in the description box so you can still work out your other core numbers. But today I'm adding how to calculate your soul urge onto this video, just to save you flitting between if you've forgotten. You may have already seen my core video and you just need a bit of a reminder, so I'm putting that in this video. Also in the description box I'm going to be putting all the links to my social media and links as well to my C9 fitness plan that I'm starting on Monday. Very nervous about it, but it's going to be a great detox and weight loss for me, and I'm posting videos on that too at the moment. Anyway, digressing. Just a little overview, just very quickly. Your life path is your main number, the most important number that you need in this incarnation. But your life path, it's more about the lessons that you need to learn in this lifetime. It's like the development, something that you're working towards. Now, some people work out compatibility using the life path. I find this a bit difficult because the life path is the lessons that you need to learn. It's not necessarily much to do with, it's your spiritual evolution. It's not necessarily much to do with who you're going to get on with and love and develop with in this lifetime. And of course, your expression number is your talents and all your abilities and confidences that you bring to this lifetime to support your the development of your life path. Birthday number, again, is a little sub-lesson attached to your life path. I like to have the life path and the birthday number together because the birthday number is like a little sub-lesson to the big life path lesson. So I always put my life path and birthday number together, but everyone's different. But for numerology's sake, the second most important number from the life path is the expression, or some people say key number, which holds your, as I've just said, your talents. You may also have a known name number or a focus number, which is the name that you're called every day. You might be called a nickname. You may have changed your name by marriage. That's also important. That's also a little attachment to the abilities you bring to this lifetime. And of course, your soul urge is what your heart really desires from this lifetime. So when it comes to relationship compatibility, what your heart really desires, what your soul's urge in, is the most important number when it comes to relationship compatibility, most definitely. So without further ado, let's get going. Right, so don't forget there is a core numbers video that I've done where you can work out all your core numbers, no problem. But for this, I'm just doing the soul urge number. So the soul urge number is calculated using the vowels of your full birth name, not your known name, not your nickname, the name on your birth certificate. So you need to pull out all the vowels from your full birth name, your first name, your any middle names you were given at birth, and the surname you were given at birth. Pull out all the vowels from there and do it basically one at a time. So for example, Joe Robert Smith. That is the name on Joe Robert Smith's birth certificate, not Joseph. His parents put Joe Robert Smith on his birth certificate. Right. So must always break the name down. Okay, so you can take advantage of these master numbers that appear every so often. Okay, so in the name Joe, we have the O and the E that is a vowel. So the O represents a 6 and the E represents a 5. So we add that together. That comes to a master number 11. Now, if that was a 12 or a 13 or a 14, I'd reduce that down to the single digit. But because it's a master number 11, I'm leaving that right there. Okay, Robert the same. I pulled out the O and the E again because they're the only two vowels in the name. And again, I got to 11 and I left that there. Okay, Smith. The only vowel in Smith is the 9. So I pulled out the 9. I then added together the 11 plus the 11 plus the 9 to get to a 31, which would then equate to a soul urge 31-4, or most importantly, a soul urge 4. Okay, so you can do that with any full birth name. Just pull out all the vowels. First name first, pull out the vowels, come to a figure. Reduce that figure if it's not a master number. Do the same with the middle name. Pull out the vowels, add it all up, reduce to a single figure unless it's a master number. The same with the surname. Then add, and depending on how many middle names you've got, add them all up. Add all the vowels from all your middle names. Okay. Then take the figure from your first name, your reduced figure, and all the reduced figures from your second names or name and your surname. Add those together at the bottom, and then you will get to your soul urge number. Okay. If you have any questions about that, drop me a question in the description box. More than happy to answer any questions you may have. Right. So soul urge number. The compatibility of the soul urge number 4 with the soul urge 1. I'm going to go in numerical order. Okay. So if you're a soul urge number 4, you're always going to be a very committed and loyal person, because you care so deeply for the well-being of your family and your community. You know, it's very much your security. You care a lot about it. For you, as a soul urge 4, what you love about family is the strength and the stability that a family brings, creating a safe, secure place for you and your family to grow and develop. That's what you really want as a soul urge 4. So you can be vulnerable to be, because you're very much building the secure base. You could be at risk of being taken advantage of by somebody that's wanting to get what they can from someone else, if you know what I mean. So it's important for the 4 to realise, when are they creating a secure home and fulfilling their responsibilities, and when might be they giving a little bit too much, or maybe their partner isn't pulling their weight in the situation, if you know what I mean. The numbers that are apparently most compatible with the 4 are the 1, the 6, and the 8, and the 11, because, you know, the 1, as you're about to hear, does go well with the 4, and I'll explain why in a second. The 6 loves family and security and the home, so that goes very well with the 6. The 8, the same, really. They like the security of a home and they love family. And the 4 and the 8 are very business-minded, very compatible. And the 11, I'm not so sure so much about the 11, because the 11s struggle on their own to keep relationships down. That's part of their lessons for this life. The 11, yeah, they can be quite detached at times, but also very, very loving. So yeah, I'll talk a bit more about the 4 and the 11 in a little bit. Least compatible, the 3 and the 5, because the soul urge 4 wants that security, and the 3 and the 5 are not secure at all. Very frivolous people. Anyway, moving on. So focusing on the soul urge 1 with the soul urge 4. So the soul urge 1 is, you know, their compatibility in any relationship, no matter what the number is, depends on how, if they are a soul urge 1, how that is manifesting in other areas of their life. Because when their soul urge is not being fulfilled in other areas of their life, it can make their ability to hold down relationships that little bit more difficult, because they may, not always, become quite frustrated and emotional and angry all the time, and hard to hold down a relationship. But not all 1s are like that. Some are a little bit more mellow than that, but I'm just talking in the worst case scenario. The 1 likes to be in charge in a relationship. They like to be the one in control, but they also need independence. So they like time away to themselves to be able to do their own thing. I've lost my place. Yeah, they need some time to do their own thing. But they also want their relationships to be exciting. Now, the 4 is quite good at helping, will be quite good helping the 1 do their own thing, because the 4, they like their own time as well. I don't see that as being an issue. Both the 1 and the 4 will both like to spend time alone, and they'll understand and probably want that in each other. The 1, however, likes their relationships to be exciting. And I'm not saying the 4 is boring, but they're not as lively and exciting as maybe the 4 would want. Remember, the 4 is all about security and safety. So they're a lot more stoic and quiet by nature, and do run the risk, the 4 soul urge, of being quite isolated at times. Whereas the 1 likes a little bit more excitement and variation, and gets frustrated with that kind of thing. So that could be a bit of a problem. But overall, the 1 and the 4 can be a good match together. As long as the 1 is having their soul urge being dealt with in other areas of their life, and the 1 and the 4 can work together and give each other the independence, but still come together at the end of it, then they could have a good relationship. My concern for the 1 and the 4 would be the 1 obviously needing the excitement, and I've forgotten the next thing I was going to say. Yeah, there was one other thing. Anyway, until I remember. So for the 1, the least compatible with or the most compatible with the 1, I should say, are the 1, the 4 and the 8 and the 9. So most people actually say that the 1 and the 4 are a good match, but I believe any match has its ups and downs. Some are easier than others, granted, but each match has their ups and their downs. So this is what I wanted to sort of make clear. Least compatible with the 4 are the 6 and the 7 energy. Now, I think it's probably because the 6 is very passionate and family orientated, and the 7's quite isolationist itself anyway, so they could be like ships passing in the night. Anyway, moving to the soul urge 4 with the soul urge 2. So you remember about the 4, they like security, they like family, they like to be in a committed, secure relationship. Again, the soul urge 2, they need relationships too, more than any other number. They want connection, they want emotional intimacy, they're loyal, committed, and they put others' needs above their own. Now, the 4 puts others' needs above their own as well. And they both like the home, so I can see this would be a good match for them. They both like to feel secure in a relationship. However, the soul urge 4 isn't always so emotionally available as the 2 might want. The 4 can be quite stoic with their emotions, and they hold a lot inside, and can sometimes come across as a bit distant and cold, which can be quite difficult for a soul urge 2 to deal with, because they love that emotional intimacy. The soul urge 2 is very empathic, empathetic, so they absorb the energy and the feelings of others as if they were their own. So they're likely to really understand the emotions of a 4 and realise that there might be something wrong or something on their mind. But the 4 will be less inclined to maybe express themselves always, or talk about their issues. They may want to hold it in, which could possibly cause a little bit of a barrier between the 2 and the 4. But that's the only barrier I can really think of that would be related to the 2 and the 4 energy. The 4, the soul urge 4, doesn't like to argue. They like to be quiet. They like to be ordered. They like to be organised. And the 2, they hate arguing. They hate disruption. They're the peacemakers, and they avoid conflict at all costs. And they need one-to-one relationships, which works for the 4 because that's what gives them the security they need. Like I said, the only concern I can find is the emotional availability of the 4. But as long as the 2 understands that the soul urge 4 might at times be a little emotionally unavailable, and the soul urge 4 realises that the soul urge 2 might be a bit, no, I'm not going to say that, wanting the attention of the 4 at times, then, you can compromise on that. There's no reason why it can't work. Soul urge 4 with a 3. Now this one's a bit of a sticky one, because the 4, as I've said, likes their security, they like their home life, they like their plans and organisation and that kind of thing. but they're at risk of being taken advantage of. The soul urge 3 is very different to the 4. So the soul urge 3 compatibility in relationships depends whether their 4 partner shares their creative vision and their urge for spontaneity and fun, which, the soul urge 4 is going to be more into building and creating a process, creating a plan, whereas the soul urge 3 is a lot more scattered and creative and emotional and expressive, and the entertainer and the creator and the artist and the speaker, whereas the 4 is the planner, the organizer, that let's get this done kind of person, a lot more serious by nature. So, for the 4, the 3 can be a little bit too scatty, maybe a bit lazy at times, creative and messy, and too social and over the top for the 4. And for the 3, the 4 can be like a stick in the mud to them. Everything's got to be in line. He never has fun, he never relaxes. You can see the dynamics between a soul urge 4 and 3 can be a bit difficult. So the soul urge 3, with their need to socialize, they need excitement in their relationships, just like the 1. And the 4 isn't going to offer that to the 3, but what the 4 will offer to the 3 is security. Okay, because the 3 will find that difficult to achieve at all in their lives. And if with the right attitude, the 4 can help the 3 to have some structure in their life, and the 3 can help the 4 to relax a little bit and have a bit of, be a bit chill out a little bit, be a bit frivolous with their lives, not be so uptight and organized all the time. So the numbers most compatible with the 3 soul urge are the 5, the 6, the 7, and the 9. So most people don't really consider the 4 and the 3 as compatible numbers, because normally the numbers next to each other are very different from each other. And I would agree. However, like I said with all of them, understanding each other is key. The least compatible with the soul urge 4, as we said, is the 3, as I've just said, and of course the 5, because they're like the 3, they're quite scatty, but I'll tell you a bit more about that in a minute. So yeah, the 4 and the 3, it's doable if you understand each other, but they're not really considered very compatible soul urge numbers. Right, the 4 with the 4. Okay, so think about 2 secure 4s together. Okay, so 2 soul urge 4s both work hard for the safety and security that comes from having a family. Probably both very workaholic people, or should I say hardworking, driven people, both of them in the relationship. Hardworking, organised, very scheduled, very scheduled relationship, but could end up with both of them trying to control each other, or one controlling the other one, the stronger natured one controlling the other. They both struggle with emotional intimacy, so they might both be a little bit distant in their relationships and a little bit lacking in emotional intimacy. The 2 4s will offer each other the safety and the security, and they very happily could exist alongside each other in their organised, subdued, secure and safe little bubble. Okay, they can be like that, but they won't necessarily be the most exciting go-getter couple. They may spend a lot of time together and maybe not so much time out socializing. However, with two such organized, stoic people, the biggest risk with 2 4s, as much as they can work very well together, is the lack of emotional intimacy between the pair of you. Important that if you're both a soul urge 4, that you continue working to each other with each other for security, but you also spend time on an intimate level to keep up the closeness of your relationship, rather than so that you don't become so distant, if you know what I mean. Okay, so the numbers most compatible with the 4 are the 1, 6, 8 and the 11. Least compatible, 3 and the 5. Okay, so on most people don't put the 4 and the 4 together, but they can be a good couple. They both want the same things. Who doesn't want to be in a relationship where you both want the same things? But you might both have a different idea of what is secure for you and what is secure for the other person. That could cause a mismatch. But in general, you're both looking for the same things out of life. But everyone has different opinions, and as I would imagine, the soul urge 4, the 3 and the 5 don't sort of mesh very well with the 4. Okay. So the 4 with the 5, this is similar to the 4 and the 3, because the 5 likes lots of adventure. They like to see different people. They like multiple relationships. They like travel. They like adventure. They like meeting new people. And the 4 is all about the security of building their home and putting everything together and getting everything working like clockwork. And the 5 wants to throw the clockwork, wants to throw all the stuff in the air and go traveling, and see how many people they can meet on the way. They quickly lose interest and they just want to move on to the next new thing. So the soul urge 5 needs a partner that allows them that freedom, because the confines of a relationship could prove too much for a soul urge 5. But if the 5 is honest about what their needs are, and they do want to finally commit, because 5s do commit, it just takes them a bit longer sometimes. There is no reason they cannot be strong in a long-term relationship, but they're not going to help the 4 to achieve the security they want. So a soul urge 4 and a soul urge 5, one's going to want to travel the world and the other one's going to want to stay at home, making sure the walls stay up strong. So you can see that there's a definite problem with these two soul urges. They're almost like opposites of each other. It's hard to compromise unless you live half the time at home making sure your walls are up and half the time traveling. There's always going to be a bit of a mismatch there. So 5's most compatible numbers, as you can imagine, are a 3, 5, 7. 7 likes a bit of excitement in their life, and a 9, because the 9 just is compatible with everyone. And the least compatible is the 2 and the 4, because the 2 wants emotional security. They want a family, they want intimacy, and of course the 4 wants security. And the 5, they just want to meet different people. They don't necessarily want to get into a deep relationship or to be intimate. That's just the way the number is. So the 4 and a 5 soul urge will have a lot of mismatches in their relationship. But, as I always say, if you're both willing to compromise and understand each other, it's not impossible for the two numbers to work together towards something great. Soul urge 4 and the 6. Now, the soul urge 6 is caring and generous. They love the home, just like the 4. The 6 is romantic and loving, with innate understanding about what their partner or the 4 is feeling. And they desire nothing more than a happy family life. And of course, that is compatible with the 4. However, there's that emotional availability thing that might creep in again, because the 6 is a very emotional number and they want emotional intimacy. And whereas they both build a very secure home together and they'll love having the security and the love of a home, the 4 will struggle to be emotionally available to the 6, and the 6 will struggle to get any feelings or any. It's not that the 4 isn't deep, they just don't like expressing emotional depth, which could be a bit of an issue. But they can build a good home together, the 6 and the 4. So they're committed, the 6, and prepared to work hard in a relationship, just like the 4. But the 6 needs a partner who wants a long-term relationship, very much the 4. The 4 is very loyal and also wants a long-term relationship. So this bodes well for the 6. But the 6 must beware of partnering with someone who needs fixing and ignoring their own needs. But the thing is, the 4 tends to be a bit of a fixer as well. So I think that with the 4 and the 6 together, they're less likely to fall into that trap of one fixing the other, because they're both fixers at the end of the day. The numbers most compatible with the 6 are the 3, the 4 and the 9. The 9 because they're compatible with everyone. The 4, which I've said, they can build a good home together. And the 3, which is good for an emotional level with the 3, but I struggle a bit with the 3 being compatible with the 6 because of the 3's not so into the home. But, everyone's got different opinions on that. If you've got an opinion on it, drop it in the description box and we can have a chat about it. Right, the 4 and the 7. Right, so remembering that the 4, they want their security, they want their organisation, they want to know what's going to happen, they want to have a plan, they can be quite serious, and they just want that safety and security. The 7 finds it difficult to be in a relationship with anyone because the 7 doesn't really give two hoots whether they're on their own or with people. They're quite extroverted, but they also love time on their own. So they're very much a mixture of the two, maybe tilting a little bit more towards liking to spend time alone. So the Soul Urge 7 is only really compatible with partners that can understand the 7. Close relationships can be a struggle for the 7. Because emotional intimacy doesn't come naturally to them, but nor does it come naturally to the 4. So you can see again that the 4 and the 7 could be a bit emotionally unavailable to each other because they both have the same trait of not being emotionally available and being quite stoic, and it can create distance between them. The 7 dislikes people who are too needy. Well, the 4 isn't necessarily needy unless he's like really low vibrational and lazy and uncommitted. So the 7 likes people that can offer them mental stimulation, and the 4 is normally a very intellectual, quite a smart number. So the 4 will be really good at mentally stimulating the 7. They both like to have time apart, so that won't be an issue for them both. And the 7 is most compatible with the 4, the 5, the 7 and the 11. So most people agree with me that the 4 and the 7 are quite compatible together. The only snag I can see again is the emotional availability of both numbers and how that they can both be quite distant with each other at times and run the risk of floating by each other like ships passing in the night. So it's important that you spend time with each other to keep that level of intimacy going. And if you do that, then, the 4 and the 7 can work with each other extremely harmoniously. The 4 and the 8, 2 very similar numbers. So the 8 Soul Urge, because they're very focused on their career, like the 4, the Soul Urge is very focused on success and the material world and financial matters. The Soul Urge 8's compatibility in relationships will depend on whether the 4 shares their vision of success. Okay. And that normally is the case because the 4 and the 8 are both very driven, task-orientated numbers. And that the 4 is, it depends as well on whether the 4 Soul Urge is able to offer the support and freedom for the 8 to achieve that success, which is, very likely because, again, the 4 likes time to themselves too. So the 8 needs time to pursue their own success and the 4 needs time alone. It doesn't matter what the reasons are, but the 4 would find it no problem at all to give the 8 Soul Urge that space that they need to achieve the success that the 8 desires. So the 8 puts their career first. So does the 4, really. And romantic relationships second, making the relationship with the 4. I checked this so many times and I still miss bits. Look at that. Do you know how many times I read through that and made sure it was all correct and I still missed a bit? Tell me off, people. Tell me off. So a relationship with a 4 and the 8, not potentially difficult. It's actually potentially good. They're both very task orientated, both very focused on careers, both need time apart to deal with their own thing. Again with the 4 and the 7, because they're very wanting to do their own thing, there could be a lack of intimacy between the 4 and the 8. So again, they would need to spend time making sure that they spent quality time together to keep that intimacy level up. And, you know, don't miss those times or say, oh, sorry, I'm too busy working. Always trying to keep that time scheduled in together, like with the 7 as well. So the 4 with the 7 and the 8 soul urge needs to make sure they're spending that good intimate time together. Okay. Because at the end of the day, what does money, fame and power mean? Which is what the 8 soul urge really wants. But what does money, fame and power mean without love and no one to share it with? You know, many people like to be around soul urge 8s because they're quite magnetic and intensely charismatic, more so than the 4. So the 4 at times may feel sort of left on the shelf at times while everyone crowds around the 8. Not every time though, it depends how confident the 8 is, because the 8 also has difficulties with their confidence and their personal power. So depending on the 8's development in their life, in their soul urge and life path, they may possibly overshadow the 4 a little, but not necessarily, you know. The numbers compatible with the 8 are the 4, which is a good sign, the 8, another 8 definitely, and the 22, because the 22 adds up to the 4, very similar numbers. Least compatible 3 and the 5, because again the 8, like the 4, wants that security, they want success, they want planning, they want to move forward, and the 3 and the 5 just want to have fun. They just want excitement, they just want to do loads of things and be creative and experience everything. Okay, so that's not really what the 8 is all about. The 4 with the 9. Well, you know, what can I say? The 9 is a very high vibrational number. They tend to get on with most numbers, okay? They're very caring and compassionate, the 9. They have a lot of love to give, and they're open to the needs of others. So they'd be open to the needs of a soul urge 4. Whilst being very interesting company, because the 4 is quite intellectual, so they'll appreciate the interestingness of the 9's company. The 9 can be a little bit condescending at times, you know, because they're a high vibrational number. They don't know how they know it, but they know it if they're not into numerology. And they think themselves to know better, probably because they do know better. Their intuition tells them that they know better, because the 9 has gone through so many lives prior. As we'll learn into balance between giving and receiving, the 9 can sometimes give a bit too much. And the 4, even though they're hardworking, can slip into the tendency of taking from the 9. And the 9 can be taken for granted a little bit. But the 4 has that similar problem as well, that they can be taken for granted a little bit. So, you know, that part of it could be possibly all right. They'll help each other quite a lot. And the numbers most compatible with the 9 are the 3, the 6, the 7, and of course another 9. And they say the least compatible are the 4 and the 8. So people don't really talk much about the 4 and the 9. They probably think it's quite a mediocre connection. And I think it possibly is. It's not the best with the most potential. But it's certainly not a relationship that won't work. They can both work very well together. And I'm struggling to see where there could be much of a snag between them. I mean, the 4 wants security. The 9 doesn't have an issue with security. And I'm struggling to see where the numbers could really clash. The 9 can be a little bit distant with the people around them, but so can the 4. So I guess the only snag I can foresee again is possibility of emotional distance between them. But other than that, I think the 4 and the 9 are quite a good mix. But you tell me what you think. You know, if you're a 4 and you're with a soul urge 9 and you disagree with me, just let me know. Let me know. You know, I'm always learning myself. 11, the 4 with the 11. So the soul urge, the 11 soul urge, you know, they can struggle a little bit with relationships. I've known that time and time again with my experience of life path, soul urge, or the life path 11. They have that, you know, they'll always have difficulties in their life relating to relationships. Doesn't mean they can't hold a relationship down. It just means there'll be some drama involved. And the 4 really isn't down with drama. So the missions of the master, the soul urge, master 11, they will need time to themselves, as well as sometimes they will be very close, very team spirited. So they sort of flick between working by themselves for their own creativity to spinning over and being a counselor and a helper and a team player. And I think the 11 very much has this clash of the two. And that's one of the basis of their difficulty in relationships, whereas the 11 can be a bit of a conflict at times because they're a double one, which is a very independent, creative, go-getter, energetic number, and that's what they're here to achieve in their soul, is the 11 energy. But also those two numbers add up to a 2, which is more about nurturing and building relationships. And I think this clash can be a bit of an issue for the 11. And what with the soul urge 4 being very career and task orientated, they're both not keen on conflict, and they could both work well. They wouldn't argue much because the 4 doesn't like arguing. The 11 hates in horrible arguing, sniping environments. They like harmonious environments. So the 11 and 4 can be quite harmonious together. Again, they need to make sure they come together a lot and spend time together. It says, most people say the 11 is most compatible with the 1, the 2 and the 22, and least compatible with the 3 and the 5, again, because the 3 and the 5 are a little bit scatty and not really wanting to be in a relationship. But the soul urge 11 does. They do want that security of a relationship, but they need time to themselves to do their creative thing. Same as the 4. So, these two, they could be a good match together as long as, again, you understand each other. If the 4 understand the soul urge numbers clash between their alone time and time with people, and sometimes the 11's difficulty in relationships, and the 11 understands the 4's need to be organized and practical and always very methodical all the time and quite serious. Understand each other. There's no reason why you can't do well here. Now, the 4 and the 22, these two are very compatible numbers. Very, very. The 2 and the 2 adds up to a 4. So the 22 is really a higher vibration of the 4. The 22 is compatible in relationships depends on the 4's patience and care and ability to understand the 22's need for a secure foundation. Well, the 4, that's what they want, a secure foundation. So they both want the same things. The 22 and the 4, most definitely, like the 4 and the 4, both want the same things. They both want that secure foundation, which is the first tick. But the 22, they've got a little bit more to do in this world as a soul urge 22. So they need time to themselves to be able to develop and bring what's in their mind that they've brought from spirit and making that a reality. So they will need time out of the relationship to achieve that. And the 4 would be more than happy to let that happen because the 4, they like their time by themselves to do their own thing. The 22 is loyal and trustworthy, just like the 4. And the 22 expects that loyalty and trustworthiness in return. And the 4 will quite easily and happily give that to them. The 22's difficult path, however, means that they're not always going to be available to give much time and energy to the relationship sometimes. And I think the 4 would be okay with that. But again, you need to make sure you set aside time together, guys. You're a good couple if you're a 4 and a 22. Give each other time, understand each other's need for time, which I'm sure you will. But make sure that you leave time for intimacy and spend time together, just you two together. Compatible matches with the 4 are the 4, the 6 and another 22. Least compatible, as you can imagine, because the 22 needs security, is the 3 and the 5. Last but not least, the soul urge 4 with the 33. Now, the soul urge 3, the 33, because both the numbers add up to a 6. Okay, so you've got the 33. There's a bit of a clash, like with the 11. The 2 3s together are very, very creative, very get out there, socialize, do new things, not be planned, be quite frivolous and scatty, and just no plan. It's hard to express how they just like to be creative and messy. So think of the 33 as your ultimate artist, living in a messy environment, covered in paint, hair sticking out in the air, or being on the stage, expressing themselves, or playing the guitar, or singing on stage. That is very much the double three. Okay, very, not secure on any level. But these two numbers, they add up to a 6. Now the 6 likes the home, and they like intimacy. Excuse me a minute, guys. My lovely cat wants to go out, and I've shut the door. Come on then, little man. You want to go out? Come on then. No, you're not going out? Oh, okay. So he's not going out. Sorry about that. So the 6 is very into the home. They're very emotional. They're quite, what's the word? Passionate. Okay. And the 6 loves their home life. Now the 3 and the 6 are a little bit of a clash. So the Soul Urge 33 tends to swing between being highly attentive and homely and family orientated and affectionate, to needing their own space to go and be creative and be scatty and socialize and do their own thing. Okay. Again, fine for the Soul Urge 4. Okay. The time away to do their own thing is fine for the Soul Urge 4. But the 33 as well needs that social time. When they're in the mood to be social, they will want to get out there and see people and build relationships and socialize and have fun. And the 4 might be a little bit, I don't really want to go. So that can sometimes cause a bit of an issue between the 33 and the 4. The 33s need to get out there and socialize and be attentive and loving and just and the 4 being more stoic and serious and less social. They like to be a bit more of the quiet thinker, and the 33 very much the creative. But when the 33 wants to be in, at home, and they're feeling the higher vibrational 6, they can have, be mixed very well with the 4, because both numbers, the 6 and the 4, both love their home. It's just that sometimes the 33 can be a bit too emotional for the 4, and sometimes the 4 can be a bit of a stick in the mud and a bit boring and a bit unsocial to the 33. But when they come together in their own home and you appreciate each other for the security and the love and the family that you both bring, you can do very well. Just accept to each other that you both need your space, and, understand what the Soul Urge 4 is, and the 4 understand the 33. No reason why you can't get on well as a couple, okay? But there will be a few snags at times, as with any relationship. Now, people say that the 33 is most compatible with the 3, of course, very similar numbers. The 4, and the 9, which is compatible with everyone. And the least compatible are the 1 and the 8, because the 33 are very like scatty and creative and homely and loving. They're not very organized like the 1, independent and quite, they're not like the 1 by nature, and the 8 is about success and about business. So you can see how those numbers don't really gel. Okay, but again, I've talked about all the compatibilities of all the numbers, guys, but they're, any number can work together as long as you're able to compromise and one soul urge isn't being left in the roadside so the other one takes over. When you've got numbers next to each other, like the 3 and the 4, or the 5 and the 6, this can be a much, much more difficult for you both to gain your soul urge in a relationship, because you're both completely at opposite ends of a spectrum. So those kind of relationships can be more difficult, and you must keep that in mind, that, if a 4 and a 5 soul urge are together, that the 4 isn't completely losing their soul urge and their desire in life, and because they're being dragged around the world by their soul urge 5, or the soul urge 5 doesn't want to be stuck in one place within the home and feeling all secure. They just want different things from life, if you know what I mean. But, unless you're a number that's next to each other in numerology, there is no reason why you can't work it out and both get what you need out of a relationship. So, you know, what I'm saying is no compatibility is hard and fast. If you want to if you're willing to understand your partner's soul urge number, understand what your partner's soul urge needs, and they are willing to understand your soul urge and understand what you need, and then those two things can work together and compromise, why can't you be very happy in a relationship? But you let me know what your thoughts are, guys. More than happy to have questions in description box. You know, any opinions you might have, just let me know. Message me. You can contact me on, you can email me. You can go to my website because I've uploaded some content to my website. So go to my website, email me at katie@soulexplorer.net. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn and Twitter, and all those links are going to be in the description box. But most importantly, please guys, please like my video if you like it, subscribe to my channel, and click that bell icon so you get kept up to date with all my content that's coming up really soon. And yeah, subscribe to my channel, and I've got a lot more coming, so many more ideas. I'm still doing videos on Mayan astrology as well, and my next video is going to be guidance and development for the life path 5, and then I'll after that do the soul urge 5. Okay, so as ever guys, trust the soul within you. Only you know what is right for you. If it doesn't feel right, you don't do it. Trust the soul within you guys. Until next time.